All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a huge shift in the world of work. Seriously, the old rulebook is out the window, and if you want to stay relevant, you need a completely new game plan. We're going to be exploring what's called the pivot, a totally different way to think about and future-proof your career.
So let's start with a number, 17. What do you think that is? Well, according to the research, if you're just starting out in the workforce, that's about how many different jobs you can expect to have in your lifetime. And I'm not talking about promotions, I mean distinct jobs probably spread across 5, maybe even 7 different careers. Just let that sink in for a minute.
The takeaway here is pretty clear, right? The whole idea of getting one degree, finding a good, stable job, and just climbing that single ladder for 40 years, yeah, that's officially a thing of the past. The new normal is all about constant motion, and your success now really depends on how well you can pivot.
So, why is all this happening? Well, it really boils down to this huge disconnect, a mismatch between the skills most of us have and the skills the economy actually needs right now. Let's break down what that mismatch looks like.
And this really lays the problem out bare. On one side, you've got our traditional way of doing education. It's slow, it's all about the degree, and we treat it like a one-and-done event. But on the other side, you have what the world actually demands today. Learning that's fast, focused on what you can do, not just what you know, and it has to be a lifelong process. You can see how the two just don't line up anymore.
And listen, this isn't just your problem to solve. It is the #1 headache for businesses everywhere. A pretty staggering 63% of employers say that skill gaps are the single biggest thing holding them back. They literally can't find enough people with the skills they need to grow and evolve. And if you want to get a sense of just how fast this is all changing, get this. 1/3 of the skills that were needed for an average job back in 2017 were basically obsolete by 2021. That's just 4 years. The ground is constantly shifting under our feet, which means what you learned yesterday could be totally irrelevant tomorrow.
Okay, so how in the world do you deal with all this? Well, it all starts with a change in how you think about it. The pivot isn't some one-time dramatic career change. No, it's a whole new approach, a continuous way of thinking about your own professional growth.
Now pay attention to this number, because this one is personal. The World Economic Forum estimates that by 2030, almost 40% of your current core skills will either be radically different or completely outdated. That's almost half of your professional expertise, gone or transformed.
So if your skills basically have an expiration date, what's the most valuable skill you can possibly have? It's the ability to learn new ones, fast. And there's a name for this, meta-learning. It's the skill of learning how to learn. It's about figuring out your own best process for picking up and using new information. And honestly, it is the absolute cornerstone of this whole pivot mindset.
All right, so once you've got that mindset locked in, it's time to build your new career toolkit. These are the actual, concrete strategies and models you're going to need to really thrive in a world that, just doesn't stop changing. First up, we need to talk about the ideal professional for today's world, the T-shaped employee. So picture the letter T. That vertical bar, that's your deep, specialized knowledge in one core area. But that horizontal bar is just as critical. That's your broad understanding across a bunch of different fields. It's what lets you collaborate, innovate, and really see the bigger picture. And that vertical part of your T, it has to be solid. The data couldn't be clearer on this. Analytical thinking is still the #1 core skill that employers are looking for. We're talking 7 out of 10 companies. So deep, critical thinking isn't going anywhere. So how are people actually building out that T-shape? Well, the whole learning landscape is completely flipped. A huge majority, 68% of adults who are thinking about more education, now prefer non-degree paths, things like certificates and micro-credentials that let them quickly build out both their deep and broad skills. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. Even though people are flocking to these new ways of learning, nearly half of all employers admit they're still kind of confused by them on a resume. That creates a pretty big disconnect. So the answer isn't to pick one or the other. It's to build a hybrid strategy that gives you the credibility of traditional education with the speed and relevance of these newer credentials. Now, let's switch gears and talk about one of the single biggest opportunities out there. I mean, a massive area of growth that's becoming a huge career booster in literally every industry. I'm talking about the green skills boom.
34 million. Just let that number sink in. That's how many new jobs are expected to be created by green initiatives by the year 2030. This isn't some small niche thing. This is a fundamental driver of the entire future economy.
And the payoff for you is immediate.
According to LinkedIn data, professionals who have green skills listed on their profile have a hiring rate that is over 54% higher. Simply adding these skills makes you a way more attractive candidate, like today.
And finally, as things like AI and technology automate more of the technical, repetitive tasks, our uniquely human skills are becoming more valuable than ever. Things like resilience, leadership, agility. These are the skills employers are desperate for because they're the hardest ones to find and they're impossible to automate.
Okay, we've gone over the problem, the right mindset to have, and the tools you need in your toolkit. Now let's put it all together into a real personal action plan. It's time to stop just reacting to change and start actually designing your future career. Instead of just learning things at random, you need a plan. Think of it as your own personal learning curriculum. You start with a clear vision of where you want to go, then you identify the exact skills you need to get there. You set a real timeline, you mix up how you learn, and this is the most important part. You constantly check in to reassess and adjust your course. This is how you stay in the driver's seat. So, let's just boil this all down into a simple future-proofing checklist. First, do an audit of your skills right now. Second, build out that hybrid strategy, mixed degrees with new credentials. Third, definitely invest in some green skills. Fourth, make learning a deliberate, ongoing practice. And fifth, build your network before you need it. That's your game plan.
And if you think this is all just about your personal career, think bigger, way bigger. The stakes are massive. The World Economic Forum figures that if we can successfully reskill the global workforce, it could boost global GDP by a mind-blowing $6.5 trillion by 2030. Your personal pivot is part of a giant global transformation. So, we'll end on this thought. The need to learn new skills, that's not even a question anymore. It's going to happen. The real question you have to ask yourself is this: are you going to wait for that change to happen to you, or are you going to get ahead of it and meet it with a strategic, thoughtful plan? Really, the choice is yours.